You know, I've got about 22 minutes to do this in, so just make this wrestling, this WWE TNA news video for today, the 21st of May, real quick, if you will, at least try to anyway. Now, I'm sure a lot of you, first of all, let's start with TNA. I'm sure a lot of you have heard the rumors, the reports, that Destination America is canceling all TNA wrestling programming, including Impact Wrestling. Now, first of all, it didn't really come much of a surprise. Didn't come as much of a surprise when TNA Unlocked and TNA Impact Wrestling Unlocked and TNA Impact Wrestling, or TNA's Greatest Matches series, were all canceled on Saturday mornings. It doesn't come as much of a surprise. But then you have Impact Wrestling itself. And some people say that they saw something like this coming, and yet it's kind of weird that suddenly people are and like I said, it's kind of weird, if not ironic, that people are saying, oh, Impact's gonna die, Impact's gonna get canceled, dot 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 dot. So ironically, just a week or so after it's mentioned that they're moving Impact to Wednesday nights. Now, I was watching Andre Corder's, I think that's his name, a video on this on the One Wrestling Video YouTube channel, and he showed that he had tweeted out that he basically wanted the same thing. He wanted some kind of confirmation about this. And he brought up a few things. He said that unless Destination America says something about it, unless TNA comes out and says something about it, then we can't believe anything that's said about it. You know, we can't believe everything we hear. And he then showed a tweet from Bob Ryder, who works in TNA. And despite how you feel about Bob Ryder, whether you want to believe the guy or not, Bob Ryder basically confirmed in the tweet that there is no truth to the rumors that Impact Wrestling has been canceled. Now, I know some people watching this might say, and those that probably watched that One Wrestling video yesterday by Andre Corder, they all probably say that Bob Ryder is just covering his ass. That he's just saying this for right now so that nobody is suspicious to the truth that yes, Impact Wrestling has been canceled. And I look at this as it's kind of a two-way deal. True, the person that originally reported this, Dave Meltzer, has had a reputation of falsely reporting things that have not come true. You know, Dave Meltzer, according to some people, said that Samoa Joe would not be at WWE NXT TakeOver Unstoppable, that he still had commitments, and yet what happened? Samoa Joe shows up at Unstoppable. So the question is TNA Impact Wrestling canceled, or is it not canceled? Well, like I say, I kind of find it a little ironic that news of its cancellation comes within just a week of the news of its moving to Wednesday nights. And I look at it this way. I know there's a lot of TNA haters out there. And maybe Dave Meltzer's one of those TNA haters that just wants TNA to go away. Stop being a bother. Just go away. Bye-bye. Well, if that's the case, Dave Meltzer, why don't you do us all a favor, with all due respect, and come out and admit you don't like TNA. It's not that hard. Just come out and say, okay guys, look, truth is I've never really been a fan of TNA. I think they're this, I think they're that, and I think they should just go away for right now, or at least get rid of some of the people in charge. You know, if he would just come out and say something like that, then we would understand. So, but you know what, sometimes getting reports, but sometimes we can't always blame someone like Dave Meltzer, because obviously he's got to get his reports from somebody, right? He's got to get his source of information from somebody. So we can't totally blame Dave Meltzer, because he's just reporting it. What and who we could blame is probably the source that gave him the information, because maybe that source doesn't like TNA, and maybe they saw an opportunity to kind of spread a rumor, hoping that maybe the rumor will become a reality, and they'll be like, yes, we got rid of TNA. Now it's all about Orange. Oh, what about Pure Wrestling? And it's like, seriously? Again, like I said, you can, you know, I know Dave Meltzer has a reputation of, like I say, reporting falsified reports. I understand that. I get that. But I look at this report of TNA Impact being canceled as questionable. Like I said, until we get some kind of vindication, confirmation from either Destination America or Impact Wrestling themselves that yes, both sides have decided to come to an agreement to part ways, not even a year after they came on board, only about 9 months after they came on board, then that is when we can believe that it's true. Only then can we believe any of this to be true. But until then, we got to take this report with a grain of salt. And like I said, despite how you feel about Dave Meltzer, he's only reporting from sources that he gets. And who's to say these sources that he has aren't anti-TNA haters, if you know what I mean. But with that said, we just got to wait and see what happens with TNA Impact. Because like I said, it's kind of ironic that something like this would come out a little after it's reported that they're moving to Wednesday nights. Just saying. Now, speaking of Wednesday nights, this past Wednesday night was NXT TakeOver. Once again, I didn't watch the whole show, but it sounds like it was once again very solid, match to match, a show that is worthy of the WWE special event name, if not the pay-per-view names. Basically a pay-per-view caliber show within the span of 2 hours. And with all that said, as I mentioned in my first thought, now that I'm talking about WWE news, like I mentioned when I was talking about the TNA Impact deal and Dave Meltzer, one thing that Dave Meltzer reported, and obviously this had to be from another source, was that Samoa Joe was not going to show up in WWE NXT. Well, guess what? At the end of last night, Samoa Joe did just that. Samoa Joe showed up at the end of NXT TakeOver Unstoppable. And it looks like, because WWE is pushing Kevin Owens very quickly and in a big way, it looks like Samoa Joe is going to be the next one in line to cash in on an NXT championship opportunity. Just saying. So, Samoa Joe shows up in NXT, and it looks like he'll be starting a program with Kevin Owens. Now, a lot of people look at this and they say, well, that means Kevin's probably going to lose the Elimination Chamber. Probably. But how else are you going to establish on a mainstream level the situation between Kevin and Samoa Joe, get people to tune in to the network or maybe even Hula and watch this match, or watch this program unfold between the two, if you can't really expose it? And what's even better about this too, despite how you might feel about it, is they could play along the lines of reality and acknowledge the close friendship, if you will, behind the scenes of Samoa Joe and John Cena. And you could play that into the storylines on both sides of the spectrum involving Kevin Owens. But Samoa Joe showing up last night, to me, I have to agree with what everybody has said, was probably the best debut in a company anybody could have. I mean, you're basically featuring the guy in a big way right off the bat. And in a sense, when you looked at Kevin Owens' face, you kind of saw that intimidation factor. Like, the fear was there. He was scared at the fact that here's a guy that in a post-match interview, or at least a post-show interview, stated that Kevin Owens had never beaten him in their careers and never will. So basically here you have Kevin Owens, possibly from a storyline perspective, looking at the fact that he's got to go one-on-one down the line with a guy he has never beaten, with his championship possibly on the line. So very interesting perspective here on both sides. Like I say, very interesting perspective on both sides. So it's going to be really interesting what the WWE does with Samoa Joe in NXT and then later on the main roster, because you know they're going to want to get Joe on the main roster before his 2 years are up and possibly get him into that main event caliber situation. They want to push him to the main roster and get him into a main program, because look what they've done with Kevin Owens. You have Owens now going into a program with Cena, maybe a short program. And then they got Owens going up against Joe, which eventually probably tells you Joe's going to end up on the main roster before the year's out, possibly in a similar program as well. So, with that said, Ed, it looks like WWE's got some major plans going into the rest of this year. And I don't think anybody could blame them, really, because what other options are you left with? You don't know about Taker's status. You don't know when Sting's going to show up. Daniel Bryan's status is questionable. So you're basically stuck with having to do things quicker than you want to do them. And especially with those that are that are part of the hottest portion of your company right now, the hottest brand in your company, NXT, you're having to bring them up and push them and put them in main event caliber programs or upper mid-card programs with established stars like Cena, right off the bat, so that way you can salvage your summer and say, hey, look, your summer and the rest of your 2015, and say, hey, look what we're doing. We're giving you this. So with that said, one can only imagine what they're going to do with Joe for the rest of the year. Obviously, it seems they're going to probably give him a run with the NXT title before he's on the main roster. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. And that's basically all I have to say about the WWE and TNA news out there. Let me know what you guys think. Comment down below, and I'll talk to y'all later.